Oh hey! Welcome back to Talking to Art with Ryan. Well, today we're going to be talking about one of our goal artists for this year, Mr. Willey is his screen name on Instagram, but I think his name is Wiley Verger. So we're going to be talking about him and his artwork and his body of work, and how the last piece we're going to talk about is a piece that amazing, and I'd like to get something like it, maybe half the size or smaller. I mean, we're talking about a guy who does, as you can see, big work, life size. So Virgil Wiley, just a quick little bio about him, is that he was born in 1957 in February. He's from Italy, and he started so if you go to his website and he'll go through his list of things he's done. 1991 is when we can find him participating in his first shows. So that way we know that he is participating in his first art shows in 1991. Now, the nice thing about his work is that you can see that it is all dated, and that you can see the chronology of his work. But also the next part about his work that I really like is that you can almost chronologically understand his work by color concept. So as you see, like, you'll see clear color concepts that he changes throughout with what we're going to be talking about over the time. So it's going to be, you'll be able to clearly see this is a complete body of work, and this is a thought process, and this is a thought process, and this is a thought process, which is really nice. So I've been showing you a few of his pieces here already, so you can start to understand and see the things that are happening in his time, in his work. But now we're going to go into them. So this is Mr. Virgil Wiley right here. This is one of his life-size works, and it's really quite stunning. So we're going to go in right now, and we're going to talk about one of his first pieces, which is right here. This is a woman sitting on a dock, and it's in orange. So this is a whole series of people kind of like interacting with this pier that she's sitting on. And so it's like she's sitting on this pier, and like she's checking things out, but at the same time you have her and all the surrounding swimmers. Now I only chose one image because they all seem to have a very similar feel to them. Nothing too interesting, but this photo I found was the most interesting. So the next thing we're going to go to is his animals in cans. So he has names for these bodies of work. I can't pronounce them in Italian because I don't want to sound dumber than I'm sure you already think I am. So I'm just going to kind of like briefly describe them as someone who has just seen the works on and you don't know how to describe them to your friends. So this body of work, as you can see here, is that it's this is a bird interacting with this like tree made out of cans. But if you look at the color here, all of these works are going to be this kind of this tin color. So you'll see here is this tin color and how it interacts with these birds. And so you see like the humanoid kind of like, you see this kind of like human effects on nature, and you see that this tree is almost made out of tin cans, and the bird is still having to live its life, its best life, and it's making holes in the tree. So if you're showing you two pictures, now here's a fox sitting on a large kind of like oil barrel, and then inside there's almost like a small diorama of like the habitat that the fox would naturally be living in. And I really find these like, so this is a life-size barrel. So just think about that when you think about these like large barrels. Now this next one is the donkey sitting with this large barrel on its back. And so when we think about these again, like think about them as like large pieces of artwork, and that they are fascinating and interesting, and they are doing really interesting motivational kind of like work. And it's like these things are like really like showing like how nature and humanity are living together, not so much working together. And then you have this next piece. Now this next piece is gonna bridge to the last piece that we're talking about, but I'm gonna segue there by way of what we're about to talk to. So here are the cans again, but now you have the deer on top of it. And then what he does, so like the fox previously, here on top of the back, so here's a detailed shot of the back of this deer, and you see this tiny little diorama of other kind of things that are happening. It's kind of natural habitat. And so he sees these things, and he's playing on these things, and it's really fun and captivating to look at, and they're really beautiful. So it's great, and I love that he jumps to this green color. So now we're going to go to the next piece, which is the male deer version of this. So it's almost like the fawn was before. I'm pretty sure it was a fawn. I could be wrong. But this is more of a buck, because if you look at the horns. And then again, same thing's happening at the back side of the deer. On the haunches, there is that small diorama of the natural habitat. So what I really like about these pieces is that again, it's about nature and humanity living together, kind of like how nature has to like refigure out how to be nature amongst the garbage of humanity. And it's really kind of this like beautiful take on like, this isn't wonderful, this isn't like humanity's destroying nature and this is how nature has to deal with it. So it's that guy next door with the loud music and how you have to figure a way to live with it and still have a beautiful life. So this next piece is one of his figurative works. It's a human. So we see from the swimming piece that he knows how to do figurative work. But now here he is mixing that kind of same garbage at the bottom. See down here? Garbage. And then this person standing, and he's using that green, that kind of that nature, that beautiful nature that we're all part of. And so I really like how he's doing these things. Now, I've only talked about kind of like how he's bridged that work, but I want to show you some other pieces of things he has done. And so here is a piece right here of two young men wrapped in what looks like wallpaper or fabric, and how he's carved. Remember also, all of these are carved out of wood. So all of these sculptures are carved out of wood by hand, and so they're sanded and chiseled and sawed and all different techniques, and they're masterfully put together so that you have things like this where you look at the fabric of it and you're just like, this is amazing. But you can see that he's clearly at a different kind of stage of where he's thinking with these colors. So he's at a different period of work. So now we're going to look to a work where it's almost all humanoid work, where it's all human and nature, and it seems like he's working with the fauna. So here we have this young man who appears to be wearing a sweater, but his sweater, the collar of his sweater seems to be made out of flowers. And I really like this teal blue that he's using. It seems to be very, very saturated in pigment, and it's very, almost as if it's a non-natural color, but I'm sure it's a natural color, but is it? And I really like how he's playing on this idea of like, the flowers are natural, but maybe the color's not. Again, it's that whole interplay that he's doing of like living with humanity and nature, and that's what I'm picking up on. And then here we have these two figures here, again, with the wrapping figure around them. Again, the teal on the bottom that we're looking at. Now here, this next piece is fantastic. Oh, so good. Okay, so you're already looking at it, and you can see, just like I can see, that this piece is one of probably his master works. This is probably one of the best representations of craftsmanship, design, aesthetic, composition, everything that you learn in art school as a student. This is probably one of the best representations and stagnant sculpture that is just phenomenal, because again, we have a color palette that is really kind of like toned down. It's great, it's fantastic, and it works for this composition. You have the craftsmanship of how he has crafted not only the human being, but then when we look at how he has crafted the pattern not only across this section of the person, but also along the wall, so that you have that interplay of like that. it's like someone sprayed this beautiful pattern and she was caught in that spraying action. And you look at these things and you see these things and it's phenomenal, just breathtaking. And then the last works we're going to talk about are some of his like almost religious type artworks. We have these 3 works and they're all basically the same. And again, it's here we have these large barrels, everything carved out of wood, but now he's using metallics like gold and silver. So you have these people. So the first one we saw was the guy sitting on the Tower of Gold barrels. Now this one's lying inside them. And then this last one is right here, and it's someone praying as they're an altar. So they're really interesting, they're really captivating, so don't forget to look at these. But also, all of this work is super interesting. I tried finding a price point on his stuff, and I couldn't, and I didn't want to contact his gallery to be like, can I get a price point on this? He does have representation, I believe, here in the United States. It's on his website, but also on his website he has 2 people that are also linked on his website, and they're both family members. Now I can't tell if they are sons, brothers, cousins, father, but they also do this human-esque work, and it all seems to be done in wood, and it's just beautiful respectively. So the piece that I want more than anything that this gentleman has done is right here. It's this tire with the green on it. So here we have the garbage that he's always talking about, but then on top we have that tiny diorama of these deer. He is masterful at coming up with things like this, and I really, really would like to have something like this. So this appears, from what I can tell based on the image and based on the sizes written on the internet, is that this is like an actual tire-sized tire, and that would be too big for my small New York City apartment. So if he had something smaller, like a hand or something that I could set on a bookshelf, that is what I would want. But I don't think he makes small work, so this might be an artist that I have to pass on until I can either afford. Also, A, it seems to be expensive, is A, I have more money, and B, more space. But he is truly breathtaking to behold. Don't forget, thanks for joining me, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button below, and all the links to finding his Instagram and his websites will also be listed below in the description box. Thanks for joining me.